Greetings. In this video I'm going to give a quick introduction to SketchUp. I have a cheat sheet that will accompany it. We'll run through it. So to start at the very top, SketchUp tutorial here. So there is a full version of SketchUp which you can purchase, and it is typically available for a 1-month free trial. Okay, free trial. And what this allows is for you to render your project as well as being able to insert CAD files to work from. Okay. The other version is the free version. This you could only insert JPEGs and a more limited number of file types. All right, and we'll discuss doing both of them. I have the free version, so I will not be inserting CAD files. One big benefit of CAD files is that you could snap to the corners when you're building, so it's very easy to follow the accuracy that you've created in your CAD files. When you're working from JPEGs, you can't snap. There's nothing to snap to on a raster image. Okay, so importing CAD into SketchUp. So I can't do this. Okay, while I don't have the full version of SketchUp to actually import the CAD, I will walk you through how to prepare a CAD file to do so. Okay, so let me just bring up my CAD here. All right, so here's a file, a home I was working on, a drawing. So what I'm going to do is do a save as. So inevitably there's tons of information, tons of line work in there. And it's a residence is what it's called. So I am going to do a save as, and I am going to call it residence floor plan for SketchUp. And I will save it back to 2013. It's already back there. Okay, so for some reason it seems SketchUp doesn't want to accept newer versions. So we have done a save as, so we keep that original. And now I'm just going to pick some arbitrary part of this plan. I'll just pick this right here and pretend like that's the piece that I want to trace in SketchUp. So I'm just going to start deleting everything else. Just get rid of unnecessary parts of the puzzle. And so ideally you just have just the floor plan that you need. Okay, and now I'm going to double click the wheel there, and that's zooming extents, and that's telling me when I double click the wheel that there's something else in this picture. This part's not coming front and center, so there might be a layer that's not on. So I'm going to scroll down through my layers, looking at those light bulbs, see if anything is off and not accounted for. When you, there it is, area, light bulbs off, light bulbs on, and there's some more stuff. So I'll just erase that, zoom extents, and front and center. So that tells me that there's nothing else in this file. So all my other layers should be on. They look good, and just a floor plan. I don't want to make the image going into SketchUp any bigger than it needs to be. All right, so then I can just Control Save. Let's jump back to our cheat sheet and see what else it points out. So we did a save as, we created the file only for SketchUp, we saved it back, turned on layers, removed everything else. So it is ready to go. Okay. So now in SketchUp, AutoCAD underlay. Okay, and this is also holds true for JPEG underlay. So I'm going to walk through the JPEG part of it. Basically, it's the basically everything I'm going. Well. Getting the CAD file in is the same as getting any other file in. So this part right here, I could just show you where the CAD file will show up. So we're just going to go into SketchUp, and we're going to go to insert another file. We're going to go File, Import. Okay, and we'll discuss the differences there. So here I am in SketchUp. I'll walk you through the interface in a moment. I just want to stay on this track. File, Import. And we are at the desktop now. So this is where I left my file, I do believe. But more importantly, we come here to see the file types that are going into the free one, and CAD is not on the list. So I can't do that. We're going to come search for JPEGs. That's what I have. And yeah, that's what I have to work with. So we also see, what else is in here? PNGs perhaps. 3D Max could come in. The other ones I'm not, yeah, so PNGs, that's another popular one off of pulling things off of the web. Photoshop documents. I'm not sure why you'd put a whole Photoshop document in there. I think it's really JPEGs and PNGs would be the most popular or helpful in general. So come here, click on it. I'll show you how. So I already have it in. And then it comes in and it's ready to go, and you just have to pull it direction. It looks like it's, yeah, we could pull it up or down, doesn't matter. Click and it's in. So pretty straightforward. And CAD would come in just the same. Okay, I'm going to erase that one. Select, I already have one in. Let's just circle back to the tutorial, make sure that we've covered all of this. So select, go to the file type, and then now we have to scale it. Okay, if it comes in CAD, it should be set to scale, and you can get the tape measure and just check on a known dimension, and you'll be able to confirm that very easily. The JPEGs not coming into scale. They are not to any scale, so we have to get them to scale. So that's what I'm going to walk through next now. So we want to measure a door. Okay. So in general, commercial doors should be 36 inches and residential doors should be 32. The front of a house might have a 36-inch door. So those are basic guidelines to go on. You could measure wall thicknesses. You know, it's known pieces should get you pretty close enough for our purposes, I would say. Okay, so let's jump back into SketchUp and zoom in on this front door. And again, I'll get you back and talk a little bit more about the interface in a moment. But here's the tape measure. And I'm just going to come right up here, click 1, and I'm pulling across. So I see it's about 1 foot and 1 inch and change. For our purposes, I'm rounding this off to say that's 1 foot. Okay, and I need it to be 3 feet. All right, so that is where I am here. So I have measured my front door. It is 12 inches, and I want it to be 36 inches. Okay, so we have to do a scale factor to figure out how much we have to increase or decrease our image by. Okay, so all right, so this is a different one. So I'm just going to retype here quickly. So I want it to be 36 inches, as I say, for the front door, and it is 12 inches. Okay, so it's simple math then. So the answer to this one is 3. So the scale factor is 3. All right, and we're keeping everything set to inches. If I were measuring an interior door, for instance, and I wanted it to be a 32-inch door, and it measured in at 12, then I would have a scale factor of 2.66. All right, for the front door, I'm going to go with this one. Okay, but I just wanted to show you that you could, come up with an odd decimal, and to 2.6 would get you close enough. All right, for us, the scale factor is going to be 3. All right, so to scale the object, we're going to select it. We're going to go to Scale, select a corner, start to push-pull it, and then we'll put in the scale factor. Okay, so here we are. And again, this front door is measuring about 1 foot for me. So I'm going to put in that scale factor of 3, is what we said. Yep, scale factor of 3, and we should increase this whole thing by about 3. So select, excuse me, here is the scale icon. And now I'm going to grab this node at the end. I can start to push-pull. Down at the bottom right of my screen, you can see the scale factor changing as I do it. And now I'm halfway through my command. I'm just going to type in 3, enter, and it jumped. It jumped up in scale. All right. We come back up to this tape measure. And we have about a 3-foot door. This is about as precise as you're going to get with a JPEG. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, you could really, I guess, zoom in, but that's about as precise as I think you're going to get with a JPEG. And close enough for our purposes right now. Okay, back to the cheat sheet quickly. So I'm going to run through that really quickly one more time. So we selected the image, go to Scale, push-pull the corner, and so the difference here, so unlike CAD, this is what I find peculiar about SketchUp, is that it makes you enter data while working with the mouse at the same time. All right, so that's what I find a little peculiar. So let me just jump back into there one more time. I'm going to take it right from the top. All right, so it's File, Import. Here, if you have to know what file type you're looking for. I know I'm looking for a JPEG. Here it is. Click. I have to kind of push or pull it. Drop it. Zoom in. So let's do an interior door. They all look about the same size. That's a big interior door right there. Yeah, let's do the powder room door. Okay, so tape measure. I want this to be 32 inches, and it is that is 24. It's 34. So I got really close. I'm just going to bring my calculator right up here. Go back to the tutorial. So I am taking the desired dimension and I am dividing it by the actual dimension. Okay, put that right in there. So the desired dimension is 32 inches because that's what most interior residential doors are. So these are the three right here are the three numbers that you are working with. Okay, commercial doors want to be 36. Residential doors 32, maybe a front residential door 36. So I got that powder room door. I want it to be 32, and I said it's 34. So the math on that. So this is a good example because it's taking me in the opposite direction. If I divide a number by a bigger number, I'm going to have to shrink. So this is telling me that my door is too big, and it wants to be the whole image. Wants to be 0.94% of what it is. It wants to be smaller than it is. All right. So that's my new scale factor, 0.94. So select the image, select the scale, start the pull. So now I'm not holding down on the mouse. Once I clicked on that node, it locked it in. And now you see the scale factor at the bottom right, 0.94, enter. And that should have shrunk my image quickly and not too much, so we might not have noticed it. Let's zoom into that powder room, and it went from 34 to 2'8". So that's 24 inches plus 8 inches, 32 inches. So it shrank this whole door by 2 inches. So a tiny jump. Okay, so that is how we scale our JPEGs. Okay, so let's jump back into the cheat sheet, and I'm going to start moving along a little more quickly now. So that covers that. You could also draw. So that's we covered that. So, and there's also if you drew a line there. If I drew a line right at that powder room, the tape measure works fine. But if you have objects, like if I had a line here, and then I hit enter just to get out of that command, I just have to jump into right click and go entity information. Right click entity information. So I already selected the line, right click entity. So this is in CAD. Let me just bring it over. It came up on my other screen. In CAD, this is like our property box, and right there it's confirming that this line that I just drew is 30 inches and 3/4, so it's almost 31 inches. All right, so just another way to check things. Tape measures are good, but if I select this line, it's not showing me anything down here. In CAD, you get more information a little more easily, but it's there, entity information. So let's delete that. Okay, carrying on. So we did that. And then again, make sure everything is in inches. Don't mix the two. In general, so I was dividing. I went right for door 32, 36 inches, nice and small. Sometimes you might be forced into, maybe you just have bigger numbers. Maybe a JPEG floor plan tells you that the outside of the house is 30 by 40 feet. So you could convert everything to inches, but if you end up with inches that are in the thousands, that could get confusing. Okay. So if you have, so again, yeah, if you're given the dimensions, the house is 30 feet, 36 feet wide or something like that, and 6 inches, you just have to remember that when working with feet, 6 inches does not equal 0.6, right? 1'6" is equal to 1.5 feet, All right, this is we learned this in my cost estimating class, converting fractions over to decimals. It's not always intuitive. So 4'9" is not 4.9 feet. 4'9", 9 inches is 3/4 of a foot. All right. If you just stick with the doors, you don't need to worry about this. But just in life in general, you have to be aware of also working with feet in this manner. Okay. Very important to note, if your plan is not properly scaled, then the height of your walls will not be correct. All right. So when we get to this model now, and we start building these walls, I'm going to pull these walls up 8 feet. And if this plan were completely off, then that 8 feet would look silly. Either the 8 feet could be way too tall or way too small. So that's why we need a properly scaled plan. And then if you're creating a building just really off of JPEGs, kind of a case study like we do in some of our classes, then you need to look to the elevations and sections and the house photographs that you're studying to come up with approximate heights. All right, so you have to. That's part of the investigation of getting to know the house. You're not going to be, you might or might not be provided with like building sections that provide dimensions. If they don't, you're going to have to approximate things. You know, residential average is 8 feet. That's kind of code today as a minimum. They could be 9. You know, 9's. You know, I live in a very old house. My ceiling heights range from 7'6" to 9. Those are pretty common. Commercial could, of course, be bigger. So, you know, but I'd look for the 8 to 9 foot floor to ceiling height. That's typically how you would get your heights. Okay, so now the basics. All right, so let's go to Window, Model Information, and confirm the architectural units. All right, so let's jump back into SketchUp. Window, Model Information. All right, so when I give words, it's often right up here. Window, we find some basic stuff here. So Model Information. By default, it's typically, I'm always finding it to be an architectural, but you want to make sure you're not in decimal, engineering, or fractions. Precision is set to 1/16 of an inch. I turn that off. I make that 0. So this is to say you could do very precise work in SketchUp, but I don't. And when I'm tracing a JPEG of all things that I don't even have real, you know, I don't have real dimensions given, and I don't have a CAD file to snap to. I just turn that off. When I start putting in numbers, I don't want to mess around and see 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. So by setting it to 0, it's just rounded to the nearest inch, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. So it's a lot cleaner. So always worth stopping in, and anything else, turning that, well, confirming architectural, turning that precision down. Okay, so we covered precision, setting the precision. So let's move on to looking at toolboxes. So go to View, Toolbars. All right, so here we are. We're going to View, Toolbars at the top, and the 3 toolboxes that we want, I have open already. So Getting Started, Large Tool Set, and Views. 3 toolboxes that we need, and that's one here, this whole group right here across the top, and these are the views. So we'll start to look at some of those in a moment. Okay. And views. Okay, so we want to go to Window and Instructor. This is a very helpful little thing here. Window and Instructor right there. So little animations. So whatever tool you select, so I just selected the pencil, the line tool, and a little animation pops up showing you how to use it basically. So erasers, paint bucket, so very helpful. So definitely want to have that nearby. I know most of the tools that I will be showing you, so I do not need that myself right now. Okay, so maneuvering. So orbit, we hold down the wheel on the mouse, hold wheel down on mouse, and pan is the hand icon, and zooming is in and out. Okay, so zooming is the wheel, in and out. Hold the wheel down to orbit, and hand is the panning. And while I'm mid pan here, I could orbit as well. Okay, so that's all pretty simple. The space bar is to get out of a command. Okay, so that's the space bar to get out of a command, which is the same as going to the selector right there. So I'm in the eraser, space bar gets me out and gets me back to the picker, the selector. I'm not sure what they refer to it as. Okay, so now we're talking about the line tool, the pencil tool, and entering dimensions. So you can see what I have right there, 5, foot sign 1, and I did not put in the inch sign. Okay, so grab the pencil, start drawing. Oh yeah, while I'm here, I could just mention these axes, which are really a nice feature about SketchUp. So our red axis is our X, our blue axis is our Y axis, and then our Z is our third dimension, green axis. And so I start a line, and SketchUp does a really good job of locking right into that axis. So you can see it's on the red there and on the green. So this is really, I have to stand up there to get on the blue. Very helpful, makes it very convenient for drawing. So I've started my line. I'm pulling it along the red axis. You can see down here at the bottom right the length of that line, but I'll type in, what do we say, 5 foot 1, 5 foot sign 1, enter. And now I have then I could just escape, I could select, I could right click. Again, I think we talked about this before, and we have entity information, 5 foot 1, confirm there, and I have a tape measure to double check, 5 foot 1. Okay, so pretty easy there. Okay, so that's entering that. So just like most programs, Control Z, Alt backspace, or go up to Edit Undo to undo something that you've done. All right, to extrude, we have the Push-Pull Tool. So this is a very much used tool. We'll talk about the surfaces, the white and the gray surfaces for outward material bearing surfaces. Okay, and we'll talk about. So let me finish this. So I could keep drawing here over, and you can see it has a kind of a smart line tool there, alignment. So it tells you when you're aligned with another, and then I close it, and I have an object there. So I have 4 edges and a plane. Okay, so that's basically how SketchUp works, is we draw shapes, and when they get enclosed, they create a plane. All right. So let me talk about the selecting as well here. So this one, let me so a right window, like CAD, gets everything that's within that window will be captured. So you can see I'm touching the rectangular box, but nothing is fully in it. So I'm just getting this shape up here, and I could come from the bottom right, also like CAD. And when I come from this direction, it's very handy and noteworthy that anything that's within the box. So this is in CAD and in this program. When I want to select things, this is the most common way to grab things. It's just, and all you have to do is just grab the few pieces you want. So right now I don't want these 2 vertices. I want these 2 vertices and the plane. So short, quick grabs like that. Make it, and then just delete. Okay, and also to note, when selecting, we can click with the mouse. So 1 click gets me the object. 2 clicks gets me the object and everything that's connected to it, or joining it, I guess I should say, maybe not connected. So 1 click, 2 click. All right, so get back to the cheat sheet. The Push-Pull Tool is here. So now I come, and you can see when I get on that plane, it kind of gets highlighted. Left click, start pulling up. I can put in a number, so let's put in 60 for 60 inches, and now I have a full cube with multiple planes and a lot of vertices. 9 planes, 6 planes, and multiple vertices. So there's my vertice, and so it's 1 click. 1, 2 click gets me that plane with its adjoining vertices, and 1, 2, 3 clicks gets me the entire object. Okay, so it's kind of a peculiar way of doing things. It's peculiar to SketchUp in particular, different from CAD. Oh, so the white and the gray surfaces. So if you have the full version of SketchUp and you're going to apply materials to it, then you apply them to the white surfaces. So typically SketchUp does a pretty good job of putting the white faces, so you have to move it, puts them in a little bit of a shadow, and so they might appear to have a little bit of color to them, but they're all in fact white. SketchUp does a pretty good job of putting those white faces facing out. If I right click, if I select it and then I right click and open the context menu, like all programs, right clicking creates a context menu, and I have come to reverse faces, and now I move the blue side out. So when you apply brick to this object, and it will always be on the white faces. Okay, so here the brick would be facing inside, so that would not be correct. So I'm just going to jump right back to reverse faces and bring that white face out. That's only if you're applying materials. Does that really matter? Okay, so we covered that. All right. Yeah, so the tape measure to place construction lines. So this is very helpful. So construction lines are just guidelines. They're not part of your model, but you need them to build things. So I have my handy tape measure right here. Let's see, I have looking down at the bottom right, 5'1". So that would be 60 inches, so 30.5 inches to the center. So I'm going to click once. I'm going to move over. Let's see, 30.5 inches, enter. And then it took me right to the middle, and then I could click again. I could come up, and it snaps into perpendicular, and it leaves a line behind. Right? That's one way to create a line, to measure to a place. Another is to just pull off of the edge. I'll show you. To create a window, I'll pull from this one. So I found the middle, and let's say my window is 2 feet wide. I'll come click once with the left, pull over 12 inches, enter, and then let's do that one more time. Into the tape measure, click, pull over, punch in 12, enter. All right, so that is finding my center and then moving to find my window parts. Let's just stay with this thought and bring the head of the window. Let's say that is 10 inches off of the ceiling. This thing, actually, this is only 6 feet tall, so I'm just going to bring something up and just create it. This isn't a real room at 6 feet. Okay, so that's one way to rough in your window. Okay, so now we have our construction lines in place, and we want to, now's a good point to talk about making things groups. So I'm actually just going to do a little, I don't want to mess up my thing I have over there, so I'm going to build a little something here. Okay, so we discussed how this is made up of multiple different pieces. The one thing about SketchUp, which gets really kind of annoying if you don't control it, is how things merge together. Let's get this pointer there. That's what I want. So then I can pull this guy up. So they merge together like in this peculiar kind of glue-like fashion, very unlike CAD. So like for instance, if I so let's do 1 click, 1 2 click, 1 2 3 click. So now just building these two things next to each other, now that third click has combined these. They're joining each other, and now they have this kind of glue-like bond, which is really peculiar. This line could go away, and now like let's say this line, for instance, I could move it up to here. So it has this really kind of cool, like sketch quality, like where you can move things around. But it also becomes very detrimental how like they're it could if it's not, if you don't plan properly, you could lose kind of the rectilinear quality of things, or you lose the ability to edit things, to get them back to a state where you might have wanted them before. They're forever changed once they're joined. That's kind of the best way I could describe it. So So what you do in that case is you select everything after you build something, and so if I didn't want this, but what I wanted was, for instance, a rectangle. Now I could select this rectangle, right click and make it a group, and then I could come and I can make a new rectangle. and I could select that one, right click, and make it a group. And now these two, 1, 2, 3, that was 3 clicks. So one click gets me right to the whole object. So there's no more plane. So the plane there that, over here, when I one click, I get the plane. Here, one click, I got this whole object now. 2 clicks and I'm inside of it. So I've kind of opened up the group and now I could modify it. So this is how you want to proceed, so that you don't, if you don't proceed carefully and make everything into groups, I find you end up melding something in a way that you're going to regret and not be able to undo it. All right. So that's the importance of making things groups. Okay. So to get back to here now with my window, what I'm going to do is grab this rectangle tool, draw it right on top there. Now I could select that. That's once I lay that rectangle tool there, this whole plane becomes a whole new object. Which is interesting and kind of could be a powerful sketch tool again. But if you don't plan accordingly, it could kind of backfire on you and cause problems. So now I'm going to select that. I could delete that, and now I have my paper thin box with a window cut out. Now 1 click, 1, 2 click, and I got this whole thing. I'm going to right click, make it a group, and now 1, 2, I'm inside, and when I pull that out 5 inches, it has a different, 5 inches, 5, enter, good, okay, and then now it has a different characteristic. See, I couldn't do that before. When I was here, for instance, I had a window, and I take this out, delete that, and now, let's see, if I wanted to push-pull this, oh, now it did work. Okay, before when I was trying, it actually just kind of, let's try it from this side. If I push-pull this, see, when I push-pull in this fashion, it's just elongating the box. It's not making this wall any thicker. So by cutting a hole in it, it gave me the ability to increase the thickness of this wall and not have a paper-thin wall. So you're going to have to learn the rules of SketchUp in that regard, how things work. Okay, let's get back to our cheat sheet and make sure we're covering everything that we need to. So we talked about the push-pull tool, the faces, we took the tape measure out, built some construction lines, we've covered the rectangle tool. You could also enter dimensions for the rectangle tool, just like the line tool. We talked about the different ways of selecting objects, single, double, triple clicking, window crossing, right and left, the difference between, hold shift to select more than one object. So let's just test that theory out. So select one, holding the shift key, and grabbing the component. So here, I did not make this or group. So here's my group, hold shift, and here's my face, because this one I did not make into a group. So that's the whole thing, and here I could come and take out pieces. So not a group. Okay, so that's the selecting. The erasers, pretty straightforward. Let's see, where's my handy eraser? Here above the pencil. So I just erase the whole group. We could come in and erase lines, and so you saw that, just what happened there. That is the strangeness of SketchUp. So this or I guess there's a logic to it, but it takes some getting used to, I would say. So this line is a critical component for this hole. So the line goes away, the hole goes away. So eraser. All right. Oh, move and copy. Another kind of little peculiar thing about SketchUp. So let's grab this guy here. All right. So select the group. Go to the move tool, and we could pick a corner. And I start to move it, and then hold Control down, and the move tool jumps into the copy command. So kind of a little peculiar. So if I pick it up here, Control, I could lock it right in there. So hidden command there. Okay. All right, eraser. We talked about that and the importance of making group. We did it. Okay, so let's, so there are obviously a lot more tools. Okay, so in general, regarding all the other tools, there are a lot. I am not going to run through them all. So this video, the intent is really just kind of a little boot camp to help get you started and kind of oriented towards it. I found when I was teaching myself the bit I know that about SketchUp, these tutorials on YouTube to be particularly good, and they're all from the same fellow. So SketchUp Tutorial 1, Beginner SketchUp, then it goes 2 and 3, Groups and Components, Circles, Arcs, Offsetting, and Scale. And I have some of that down at the bottom of this cheat sheet. So making circles, offset command like CAD, scale we talked about. So this is groups and components. So I talked about the importance of groups. A component like a group, except, so this is very important if you have, like if you're building one window, basically, if you're building a pretty elaborate window with a frame, you would make it a component, and then you would duplicate that component, and then you edit just one window and they would all change. So like a block in CAD. Okay, so that's very important if you have a lot of the same things occurring. Two more things I want to point out. I just paused the video and jumped into this style box. I wanted to just take a look. It is different from the full version. There's limited things here. I went to window styles here. So come backwards. There's a little back button. So there are numerous there are display options. So when it comes time to print, which I'm going to talk about next, you could see different ways to make it look. In the full version, there's a lot more control here, I believe. So we have color sets. So take a look. When it comes time to print, you find what looks best. I guess I don't know that I have shadows here. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So check out the styles when it comes time to print. And also important though, so I wanted to mention here, view face style. This is important. You definitely need this. So edge style, you could have edges or not have edges. I don't know why you wouldn't want to have edges. But face style, we go to wireframe. So this could be very helpful for when it comes time to begin like assembling kind of complex things, to be able to see through them. So that's definitely very important. So that was view and face style. So hidden line, shaded. Yeah. So shaded is probably what I would prefer. Okay, I think we covered it all. So just back here, I just talked about those basic kind of introductory ones, and then specifically on making doors and windows. This is also definitely worthwhile. Most people were starting with the outsides of houses, so definitely relevant. All right, so and we covered a lot of the basics, how to do it, all the tools, but specifically making them, it's definitely worth following along in a video there. Okay, so printing. Let's just go back up and cover that, and that is here, printing. So what we're essentially doing is exporting a two-dimensional graphic. We should make, let's go with JPEGs for consistency. For submissions, it would be easiest if we always do JPEGs. And then we will deselect the use view size, and we'll change the smaller of the 2 pixel counts to 2000. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So file, and essentially what we're doing is printing a screenshot. So we want to get in and we want to fill the screen. So if this is my house, let's pretend this is. So now I get to my pan and I have my rotate. So left click or wheel. Okay, so we want to get the best looking shot of the building. So maybe we're down here on the ground, and yeah, this is like a city block kind of. So we're looking at it like that. And then we want to center. So we want our building to take up, roughly 80% of the screen, or at least 2/3 of the screen. So let's pretend that's our building there. Obviously, we got a scale. We got a giant woman there. So now file export. So we're just snapping the screenshot, 2D graphic. And then we will go to our desktop and we will change this to, so our choices are bitmaps, JPEGs, TIFFs, and PNGs. Yeah, so a JPEG should suffice. Okay, and then untitled JPEG will make, whatever we make it, our house. No, so I did not follow my own advice there. Let's do that one more time. File, export to 2D graphic. So I took care of that part of it, but I did not come to options. Very, very important. So what this just created was to use the view size. So this is a small file coming off of your screen. So what we want to do is unclick that, and my rule of thumb is to take the smaller of the two numbers and change it to 4,000. Okay, and then we do OK, and then we come back to our house and we just overwrite that file. Yes, we'll replace that. And now we want to open up. Excuse me. We want to open that file up in Photoshop and change the resolution to 220. Changing the pixels to 4,000 makes it a bigger file, but it doesn't necessarily make it set it to 220. So it's probably, I believe, if I recall, the default, it's going to go back to 72 resolution and be a really big image, kind of like they come off our camera at school. So you want to change it to 220 and then let the size of that image shrink. Okay? All right, so that is the kind of a bare bones intro to SketchUp. All right, good luck with it.